Greetings, everybody. I'm Scott Rodell here at the San Diego Chinese Historical Museum, and I'm joined by John Partica, who is a student here at our academy. And John had an interesting question for me. Obviously, John is studying our Chinese sword arts, but clearly he's done some Japanese arts as well. And he had a question for me about how Japanese and Chinese swordsmanship would have interacted. And of course, historically, over lots of times, Japanese and Chinese swordsmen would have faced each other. So John, what was your question that you had?
So my big question was, in Japanese swordsmanship, we spend so much time focusing on drawing the sword from the saya, and I know you've done a lot of reconstruction work with the Chinese quick draw method. So my curiosity is, where are these drawing methods going to be different, and where are they going to be the same, perhaps?
And I'm, of course, very curious about this myself. I've never done this before. When John sort of threw me this challenge, as it were, said, can we do this? Can we take a look at it? I was like, yeah, let's do that. But I'd never have done any kind of sword draw to sword draw before. And John here has, and he recently won all of his bouts at a Gekiken tournament. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. This is completely live and unrehearsed. Of course, what John is going to do comes from his lineage, and as John mentioned, what I'm doing is a reconstruction of techniques. So let's jump in and test it and see what happens. Well, that was very interesting. As I said earlier, it was all live. I didn't know what John was going to draw. I did, of course, look at things before and get some idea of how Japanese sword arts work. But like I said, never done this before. Really quite interesting. A couple of times there, especially one time, the first time I brought my scabbard up for a deflection, it was because, I didn't have a good grip on my sword. Fortunately, that worked just in time. Mostly what I was doing was employing my basic cuts and being a little more defensive, generally speaking, because I know John has a lot more experience. I have no experience, so he has much more experience, obviously, than I have in drawing. And so I figured better to stay behind my sword and use the principles I would in normal Chinese free play, Chinese sword play. But John, what did you get out of this? What did you think?
Probably the most interesting thing that I noticed was that, I have to draw from a fixed position every single time. My sword is thrust through the obi, so I only have one spot to attack from, whereas you can move your scabbard wherever you need to in order to cut. So there were a few times where, thinking Japanese swordsmanship, I'd be expecting a counterattack from a different angle, but because you were able to shift your scabbard around, your sword can kind of come from anywhere.
Yeah, that's also why the one time I didn't get a good grip on it. So not as much practice, but of course I had and I didn't quite get it, and I just quickly used the scabbard. And that was just reflex. So happily it worked.
Yeah.
I just want to do a real quick shout out to everybody who's been joining our channel, to our Wuguan supporters. It's really been a gigantic help. And in fact, this video has been funded by those subscriptions. So thank you very much, everybody. And thanks again to the San Diego Chinese Historical Museum for hosting us here in their wonderful garden. If you like this video, please give us that subscription, that thumbs up. We really appreciate that. Until next time, stay strong. 再见。